So the last couple of weeks we've been talking about slope and about y-intercept. So we're going to put those two things together and we're going to show you a really easy way that we can find the slope and the y-intercept from the specific equation that's called the slope-intercept form. So our slope-intercept form is just y equals mx plus b. The number in front of the x, called the m, is the slope of our line, and the b is our y-intercept. So when our equation is in the correct form, we do not have to even do any calculations with math at all because our slope is going to be right in front of us and our y-intercept is going to be right there as well. But a couple of important things to remember. Remember, with vertical lines, our slope is undefined. There is no y-intercept. And so our line is crossing only the x-axis. So the equation is going to be x equals some number. A horizontal line has a slope of 0. So that means there will not be any x value at all because 0 times x will be 0. And our y-intercept is going to be right in the equation. Remember, our y-intercept will be 0, y. So it's where it crosses the y-axis. A slanted line can have a positive or a negative slope, and the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. And it's always going to be 0 and then whatever number we need for the y. So let's take a look at how easy these are going to be. All right, so the first part, we're just going to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So remember, the slope is always the number that's right in front of the x, and the y-intercept is the number after that. So in this case, the m, the slope is -2, and the y-intercept is 6, and we write it as 0, 6. Our slope on the next one is 4, and our y-intercept is -1. Now, on y equals 7, since it's crossing the y-axis at 7, that's our y-intercept, and it's crossing the y-axis going across, so our slope is 0. It's a horizontal line. In the next example, the slope is 1/2. It's always the number in front of the x, and the y-intercept is the -5. In the next example, when you have a line that crosses the x-axis, it's a vertical line. It's going up and down, so there is no y-intercept because it's not going across the y, and since it's going up and down, our slope is undefined. In the next example, the slope is -2/3, and since you don't see a number after the x, then we know that our y-intercept is 0. It's the origin. Okay, so in our next example, we're going to find our slope on all of these. So our slope is 1, and our y-intercept is at -3. In our next example, our slope is -4, and our y-intercept is at -3. In our next example, our slope is -4, and our y-intercept is at 1. And in our last example, the number in front of the x that's not written is 1, and our y-intercept is at 1. Now, what we need to do is we're going to match our graphs with our equations. So when we match our graphs with our equations, I want you to take a look at this first equation. Notice that our y-intercept is at 1 and our line is going down, down. So our slope is negative. Do you see a y-intercept that's at 1 and our slope being negative? And it looks like number 3. Our slope is negative and our y-intercept is at 1. So that's going to be letter A. Okay, let's look at B. Our y-intercept is at negative 3 and our slope is negative because it's going down. So let's look across at number 2. Our slope is negative and our y-intercept is at negative 3. So that's going to be our B. Okay, next one. Positive 1 is our y-intercept and our slope is going up, which means it's positive. Look at number 4. Our slope is positive and our y-intercept is at 1, so this is going to be letter C. Letter D, our y-intercept is at negative 3 and we're going up, which is positive. The only one we have left is 1. So this is letter D because our slope is positive and we're crossing the y-axis at negative 3. All right, so let's put all this together and see what we can do. First of all, we're going to identify the slope. Now remember, the slope is the number in front of the x, so that's 2. But remember, anytime you write a whole number, the denominator is 1. So we're going to put that whole thing in there because our slope is rise. How far are we going up? Over run. How far are we going across? And then our y-intercept is at 3. And remember, that's the point 0, 3. So when we graph that, we're going to go on our y-axis at 3. And then we're going to do our slope. Our slope says go up 2 boxes from our y-intercept and over 1 box. Let's do it again. Up 2 boxes and over 1 box. Then we're going to draw our line. And our next question says find another solution. So 0, 3 was our y-intercept, but the next point we drew was over 1, up 5. So that was another solution. And because it is a line, there are infinite solutions. Oops, I should spell that correctly. Infinite solutions. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. The number in front of the x, which isn't written, would be a 1. And we're going to add the denominator of 1, which means for our slope, we go up 1 box and we go over 1 box. Our y-intercept is at negative 8. So we're going to put a dot at negative 8 on the y-axis, and then we're going to do the slope from that point, which is up 1 box and over 1 box. Up 1 box and over 1 box. And we're going to connect them together. So the next solution we had drawn after we put our 0, negative 8 was 1, negative 7. And again, because this is a line that goes forever and ever, there are infinite points or infinite solutions on that particular line. All right, let's do another one. So the number in front of the x, even though it's not written, is negative 1. And when it's a whole number, we always have a denominator of 1. and there's nothing after the x, so that means our y-intercept is at 0, 0, which is the origin. So from that 0, 0 point, we're going to go down one box and over one box. Down one box and over one box. And then we're going to connect them together. Arrows on both ends. Remember, we're going to go down one box and over one box. Down and over. Down because it's negative. Next problem, it says y equals -7. So we're going to put a dot at -7. And it says nothing about the x's. So x can be anything we want, but y always has to be -7. In that case, it's a horizontal line. And we know that a horizontal line has a slope of 0. And we also know that where it crosses the y-axis is the y-intercept, which is at 0, -7. Okay, next one. The number in front of the x is our slope, which is our rise over run, which means we go up 1 and over 3. And since there is no number after the x, that means our 0, 0, or our origin is going to be our y-intercept. So we're going to rise one box, go up one box, and over 3 boxes. Up one box and over 3 boxes. And we're going to connect them together. Arrow is on both ends since it is a line. The next problem we're going to do, it says x equals 6. So we're going to go on the x-axis and we're going to make a dot at 6. And it says nothing about the y's, but we want to know that x is always on the 6. In that case, this is a vertical line, and we know that the slope of a vertical line is undefined. It's impossible to climb a wall without having any help. So undefined, we can't do it. And the y-intercept, that green line, does not ever cross the y-axis. But we could name another solution of this one. I'll put a blue dot right here. Another solution would be another point on the line. And that would be at 6, 1. And how many solutions are there? Since it is a line, there are infinite solutions. All right, last one, the slope. The number in front of the x is our rise over our run. We're going to go up because it's positive 1 box and across 5 boxes to do our run. Our y-intercept is the -5, and that's where we're going to cross the y-axis. So from that point, we're going to go up 1 box and we're going to go over 5 boxes. Let's do it again. Up 1 box and over 5 boxes. Then we're going to connect them together with arrows on both ends, and that is our slope and our y-intercept.